legends, welcome along to Sceammeupbotty. I'm your host, Rodney Stewart. We're getting into Star Trek, the original series here with the episode that had evaded me for a lot of years. It is the season 1 episode, Space Seed, that was the foundation for, of course, Star Trek 2. And a tasty little episode. I can't believe it took me so long to see this one. Like, the show was on repeat for my entire lifetime, but for some reason this was one of the very few handful of episodes that just got through the fingers. I'd never seen it until I got my hands on the box sets or indeed streaming, but it's been a long time ago now since I've actually seen it. But tasty little episode. Just good to actually, like, having, seen Star Trek 2 so many times, and you knew that this was a story based on something that had happened in the past. To finally get to sit down and watch it, just a nice little treat. So it's in the year 2267. The Enterprise encounters a spaceship floating in deep space. They're picking up a signal from it, and they recognise it as old Morse code. So Kirk recognises the ship as being similar to the DY-500 class, but Spock points out as being a much older DY-100 built back in the 1990s. So the one thing that will stick in your throat with this episode is, there's a lot of talk about the Third World War and whatnot in it, and the eugenics wars, and it all happened in the 1990s. So of course now that's an hour past and whatnot. So kind of starting to show its age in a big way here. Whenever this movie or whenever this TV show was created, of course, back in the 60s, the 90s was a long way away. But we're well past it now. Spock manages to identify the vessel from its outer hull markings as the USS Botany Bay, but finds no registry of the ship in the computer library. However, he points out that records from the area from which the ship was launched are fragmented, as the 1990s was the era of the eugenic wars, a strange and violent period in your history, as he puts it to Kirk. They do find faint life signs on the ship, and Kirk has the ship go to red alert as it closes in on the Botany Bay to go in to investigate. So the Botany Bay takes no action as the Enterprise approaches it, the only sign of life being the faint life readings that they're picking up. Now certain areas of the ship is derelict. Kirk orders Skok. Boys, my ability to actually say names and words at the minute is terrible. To go down a personal note for a moment, I am dealing with a bad back injury at the moment, but I'm refusing to use painkillers in the process of getting over this bout. But so I'm just going to blame the fact that I'm sore and I'm not using any medication as the reason why my mouth is not forming the English language or names properly. So Scotty and Dr. McCoy, Kirk gets him to join an engineering party to board the ship and investigate the life readings. He also requests the services of the ship's historian, Lieutenant Maria McGivers. And he does say it's about time she'd done some work. In the transport room, Scott takes note of the life support systems coming back on, as if the ship is expecting them to transport over. So the ship's now giving them a breathable atmosphere and everything. The landing party materialises on board the Botany Bay, and Scotty confirms that the vessel is Terran in origin, using old-style atomic power and computers with transistor units. He tells Kirk that he would love to tear this baby apart you just work out how she is. What makes our tech captain. McGivers speculates that the ship is a sleeper ship designed for long periods of interplanetary travel due to the limits of space travel technology back in the year 2018. Until the year 2018, sorry, so the 1990s up to 2018. One of the life units is then activated, and Kirk asks McGivers if this could be the leader. The lieutenant doesn't reply immediately. She sees this guy in here, and she's he's a bit of okay. So she's her lust starts kicking off in her, and she's just not doing her job in a satisfactory way for Kirk at all at this point. And he does give her shit for it later on. She eventually answers that it's as likely as the leader would be awakened first to determine if circumstances would warrant the reviving of the others. She also speculates that the man could be a sheik from the northern region of India, noting that they were the most fantastic warriors. Scotty then reports that there are 84 people held in suspended animation, all of different ethnic origins. The life support unit that houses this man is starting to malfunction, likely due to dust and other just they've been in there for longer than they really should have been. So the system starts to fall in on itself at this point. The life readings begin dropping. McGivers begs Kirk to save him, and he breaks the glass on the stasis unit to release him. Taking shaky breaths as he regains consciousness, the man asks in a hoarse whisper how long he's been asleep. Kirk estimates the time at about 2 centuries. Kirk flips his communicator open to request that McCoy and the man be beamed aboard the Enterprise immediately for further medical attention. McGivers then says, looking at this guy, just like magnificent. Just she's got the hots for Khan in a big bad way. Back in the Enterprise, McCoy, he's conducting medical analysis of, let's just say, the unidentified patient at this point in the sick bay in the Enterprise. He's amazed at the physical and recuperative power of the man. Back in the Botany Bay, Scotty, he notes that 12 of the life units had failed and that their occupants have died, leaving 72 alive from this group from the 1990s. 30 of the survivors been women. Spock can find no record of the vessel in any of the computer libraries, and Kirk suspects that since Botany Bay was the name of an Australian penal colony, this might have been a way to deport criminals. Spock doesn't think this is likely, as it would be seemingly a waste of Earth's most advanced spaceship, but he's got no other explanation of his own, lacking sufficient facts. Spock also notes the extremely low probability that a vessel of this type could have survived for so long and managed to leave Earth's solar system. Kirk orders one of the lieutenants to have the Botany Bay put under tow and set a course to Starbase 12. So back down in the sick bay, Kirk arrives to speak to the man. So the thing that I enjoyed most about this episode is, for the first time in all the years of me watching Star Trek, I have finally, having seen this episode, finally gotten Kirk and Khan both on screen at the same time in the same room. If you recall Star Trek 2, they were constantly in different rooms or in different starships because of the shooting schedule and other TV shows that they were doing. They just were never on set at the same time in the making of Star Trek 2. So that's why, they were always in different planets, different rooms, different spaceships. They were never physically on screen together at the one time in Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan. But this episode here, they do. They have long talks together, and then they beat 7 shades of shade out of each other at the end of the episode. So Kirk comes to sick bay to speak to Khan. McCoy notes that the superior strength and efficiency of his lungs, hinting at his augmented origin. He estimates that the man could probably lift both him and Kirk with one arm, and he tells Kirk that it would be interesting to see how this man's brain matches his body. McGivers arrives again with their lust on the go. Kirk chides her in her performance in the land party, and she admits to finding the man fascinating in a purely professional way. Her position on board the Enterprise as historian, Kirk thanks her for admitting this, noting, if I can have honesty, it's easier to overlook mistakes. He then dismisses her. Later, Khan awakes from being unconscious, and he goes through some exercises of yoga, and then hearing Dr. McCoy at work, the man, he sees this scalpel among a collection of antique medical instruments on the wall of sick bay, and he takes it and gets back into bed, pretending to be asleep again. McCoy arrives to check on Khan's vital signs, and Khan reaches up, grabs McCoy by the throat, threatening him with the scalpel. McCoy handles this in a great way. I love this sequence in the episode, like, just in sarcasm, just as calm as you like. He tells him to make up his mind to choke him or cut his throat, adding that it would be best if he would cut the artery just under the left ear. Khan says he admires such bravery, lets McCoy take back the scalpel. McCoy simply and calmly tells him that he was just trying to avoid an argument, at which point Khan then demands to speak to the captain of the vessel, at which point McCoy calls Kirk, saying that I've got a patient here with a lot of questions. Kirk arrives and of course identifies himself as the captain, asks the man his name. So at this point, Khan's avoiding trying to give away too much of his personal history. He avoids the question and asks what the ship's heading is. Kirk just says straight up with him, they were heading to Starbase 12, planet in the Gamma 400 star system. Enterprise's command base in that sector. The man identifies himself as Khan at this point, and Kirk attempts to question Khan further, but he declines to elaborate on his history, claiming that he's fatigued. And he pulls this trick a couple of times in the episode just to get out of talking about things. He says he was once an engineer of sorts and would very much like to study the ship's technical manuals. Kirk and McCoy then show him how to use the computers to access the information that he's talking about. He is later visited by McGivers and asking her to sit and entertain him, rearranging her hairstyle to something more attractive. So he does perv the bit out with her in this episode quite a bit. In the officers' mess, the crew prepares a full dress dinner to honour their guest. McCoy wonders if the Enterprise is hosting the fleet admiral, and Kirk replies it was McGiver's idea to welcome Khan to their century. Dressed for the occasion, Khan meets with McGivers in her quarters, decorated with portraits of great conquerors of the past, including Richard the Lionheart, Alexander the Great, Napoleon's there as well as an unfinished portrait of Khan. She started to paint him as well. Khan tells her he's honoured, but cautions her such men dare take what they want before grabbing her, kissing her, which, she doesn't mind. She's been looking for this. At the dinner, Khan explains the nature of his journey from Earth, going in search of adventure, believing there was nothing left on Earth. Spock's commenting about the eugenic wars as a conflict to end tyranny, while Khan replies that it was an effort to unite humanity, calling his era a time of great dreams, great aspirations, where there were dozens of petty dictatorships. Khan declares one would have ruled eventually, like Rome under Caesar. Think of its accomplishments. Kirk bluntly asks why Khan fled, and asking if he was afraid. Khan is, yeah. we offered the world order. Khan, for the first time, loses his cool at this point. To which Kirk responds, "We," and noting Khan's reference to a master race. Khan congratulates Kirk on his discovery of Khan's intent and says that he is fatigued again and returns to his quarters. McGivers appears at Khan's quarters and apologises for how he was treated at the dinner. Khan comments that their reaction is understandable given that he is something of a mystery to them. McGivers confesses that she knows exactly who he is and wonders if he's going to like living in their sanctuary, to which Khan replies that we'll have to remold it to my liking, more or less, showing the darker side of his nature. He then tells McGivers he intends to take control of the Enterprise, and he demands that she helps him, bullying her into submitting to his desires. Unwilling to lose him, she promises to do anything that he asks. At this point in the episode, we start to discover the full truth of Khan and who he is. Kirk, Spock and McCoy are there, and Scott, he's there too. They consult the historical records and determine that their guest is Khan Nooney and Singh, one of the genetically engineered tyrants of the eugenics wars, and the last to be overthrown. From 1992 to 1996, he was absolute ruler of 1/4 of the earth, from Asia to the Middle East. Scotty admits he always held a sneaking admiration for this one, with Kirk and McCoy adding that his rule lacked the usual massacres and internal wars and endemic to tyrants. Spock counters that he also severely curtailed freedoms and is alarmed at the romantic tone of the humans towards a ruthless dictator. Kirk replies that they can be against him and admire him all at the same time. Illogical, Spock says. Totally. Kirk responds to that. The captain then orders security to be placed on 24-hour guard at Khan's quarters, effective immediately. Later in the episode, Kirk then he visits Khan in his quarters. Khan at this point has a Starfleet uniform on him with the red shirt. So kind of throws the idea of, everybody puts a red shirt on are going to die. So seems like Khan and Scotty are immune to the red shirt syndrome. He's lost and fought, and he comments on the door being locked from the outside with a guard posted. Kirk admits that it was unusual treatment for he who is and wishes to know the truth about Khan's departure from Earth. That last few sentences I said there didn't make much sense at all, did it? Kirk admits that the guards are a little bit out of the ordinary, but you are who you are, it is what it is, sort of thing. And he wants to know more about the departure from Earth for Khan. Khan replies that he and his followers sought a new life and a chance to build a new world, plus other things. He did not believe Kirk, who is constantly mentally and physically inferior, would understand. Kirk then comments on how little mankind has changed despite its technological advancements, and that he and his people would do well in this century. After Kirk leaves, Khan breaks out of his quarters by forcing the sliding door open with his bare hands, and he knocks out the guard, taking his phaser. Meanwhile, McGivers holds Transporter Chief Kyle at phaser point and beaming Khan over to the Botany Bay to revive his people. Security then alerts Kirk that Khan has escaped. Shortly afterwards, communications become jammed, the turbo lift's disabled, life support on the bridge is cut off. Kirk calls engineering to find out why, and he's answered by Khan. So Khan has now, at this point, very swiftly got his people out of suspended animation, got them all over to the Enterprise, and the takeover process is just about to start. Yes, he demands Kirk surrender the ship to him or die of suffocation. So he lets the bridge crew suffocate to the point of passing out, and Kirk and Spock are the last of full consciousness before passing out. Kirk, making a log entry, states he takes full responsibility for Khan taking over the Enterprise. When the crew awakens, they find they've been held at phaser point by Khan's men in the briefing room, while Khan holds Kirk captive in McCoy's decompression chamber, and the rest of the bridge crew in the briefing room, who watch helplessly as the video screen shows Kirk suffocating in there. A nasty way to go. You'd pull the pressure out of one of those places, you would just implode a body, wouldn't you? Khan threatens to kill the captain unless the bridge crew cooperates with his crew, as superior as they are physically and mentally. They lack the abilities at this point to properly work the technology of the Enterprise, so they need the Enterprise crew as well. So he's like, join me and I'll let you live, sort of deal. And, if you don't join me, I'm going to start by killing your captain. And if that doesn't work, I'll just keep killing other people until you do help us. So, they're starting to torture Kirk in this decompression chamber brutally. One of the Khan's henchmen treats her violently, striking her across the face. As Khan continues to rage, the video screen goes blank. As the channel in the decompression chamber is unexpectedly cut out. They demand that her regain the channel, but she refuses to respond, and this guy preparing to hit her again. Khan stops him with a gesture, telling the crew that Kirk is dead and Spock to be taken to die next. We cut over to the decompression chamber, and it's McGivers herself that has came to Kirk's aid by using the hypo spray to knock out the guard who was watching him in the decompression chamber. She's the one who knocked out the screen as well. She frees Kirk from the chamber and urges him to not hurt Khan. At this point, Spock and one of the super soldiers, let's just say, arrives. Kirk surprises this guy, confronts them. He's taken out by Spock using the Vulcan nerve pinch. Always great to see that come up in the episode, and that little musical thing that they have there when he does it. It's wonderful. Back in the briefing room, Khan realises something's wrong when he cannot contact his men, specifically the three that are down in that decompression chamber. Kirk and Spock then succeed in flooding the ship with knockout gas, but Khan is able to avoid the gas by escaping to engineering and cutting it off from there, rigging the ship to self-destruct. With an overload, Kirk rushes to stop Khan with a phaser, but Khan ambushes the captain and crushes the phaser with his bare hands. Just like a piece of paper to him. They come to blows in engineering, Kirk eventually defeating Khan by knocking him out with a metal bar that he pulls out of one of the computers, beats him down to the ground with it. Later, at the end of the episode, there's a formal hearing put in there. Kirk drops the charges against Khan and his people, considered it a waste to put Khan in a penal colony, and gives him the offer of taming an uninhabited planet of Ceti Alpha 5. An offer Khan accepts, reference and quote from Milton's Paradise Lost. It is better to rule in hell than to serve in heaven. McGivers is given the option of court-martial or accompanying Khan and his people. Karen warns her it will be difficult at first to survive, to find food, and McGivers chooses to join Khan and his people. As soon as Khan and his people leave, Kirk and Spock express an interest in returning to Ceti Alpha 5 in 100 years to learn what crop would sprout from the seed that they just planted today. So, interesting. That's where the episode closes out. It was nice to see this character. For me, McGivers, in Star Trek 2, you had those little creatures that, you know, he put in the ears of Chekhov and the other captain that controlled them. Khan says that these things took out a lot of his men, including his loving wife. So now, having watched this episode, you're thinking to yourself, okay, was that McGivers he was talking about? So seeing the lines converging over time was very, very tasty. Not the ending you were, well, I was going to say not the ending you were really expecting, but of course, you know, we do know from Star Trek 2 that they were left on this planet by Kirk, but the way that it happened, not as physical as you'd expect. Like, there was that fight sequence where Kirk beats him unconscious with a bar, essentially, but what I wasn't expecting was the official hearing, where at the end of the episode, Khan actually honourably leaves the Enterprise. You know, he was beaten fairly, and he done the honourable thing by accepting what he had done, the repercussions for his behaviour, and left willingly at the end of the episode. So, nice, tasty little episode. I've spoiled it completely for you, of course, but it is what it is. We're talking Star Trek here. I love it. Right, that's going to do it for this episode, guys. Until the next one, stay safe, and I'll talk to you all then. This has been a production of Coins Age Media. Thank you so much for listening.